All right, welcome. I'm going to redo my screen here just a little bit so that during this time when we're talking, people can see a little bit better on the recording. Well, thank you for joining us today. For those of you who are have the opportunity to hear us now after my little mix-up at the beginning, we'll be doing this presentation, and then about noon I'll be switching back over and talking a little bit about my other subjects. So welcome, thanks for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your background?
Sure. My name is Ragi Burham, and I am Chief Amigo at Amigo Cloud. I'll tell you a little bit about Amigo Cloud. We basically do next generation enterprise maps on these mobile devices. A little bit of background. I worked at Esri for many years. I was at various teams, and at the end of it, I was at the geodatabase team.
Hey, Raji, can you speak up just a little bit so I can make sure I hear you well?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me now, fine?
Yes, I can hear you better.
Excellent. Yeah, so I worked at Esri for some years at the geodatabase team. And I was doing a lot of enterprise geodatabase program, reconciling code and conflict resolution. And then I went to Microsoft, and I worked at the flight simulator team. Basically, I don't know if you know this, but like if you ever play flight simulator, what you'll notice is that when you're flying around, all the data that you see underneath is made with real geospatial data. So whatever you see, the streets, whatever that you see, mountains and cities, it's all based on real data. So I was working on that team for a while. And I've dabbled a lot in open source software, and involved with OSGeo, letting people know about the OSGeo stack, and a lot of consulting. And I dabbled a little bit too. I founded a luxury fashion company, VC backed, and basically that's the only time I haven't done anything related to geospatial. And even during that time, I was actually writing the file geodatabase driver for OGR. And then, now I'm working on Amigo Cloud, and we're basically concentrating ourselves in doing next generation data collection software for mobile.
Okay. We are getting a couple notes. There's still some people are still having a hard time hearing you well. So
okay, maybe I can get that a little bit closer. I don't know how much closer you want to see. Is that better?
I can hear you fine. Can everybody else hear him okay? If we want to have somebody give us a little feedback here. Okay. So we'll see here if somebody says yes, they can hear you better, and speaking right into the mic helps, and somebody says no problem. So I think we're getting there. So okay. So what I would like to actually start with is you've had quite a variety of experience in the geo world at this point. You've worked with the big names, Esri and Microsoft. You've worked on open source stuff. Now you're starting up your own company here, and you have a company going. Tell us a little bit about where you see geospatial technologies going right now. Kind of where things are now, and what do you see the future looking like?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see a lot of disruption in many parts, right? A lot of the times, I actually hate to do this comparison, but it's very true, is that if you think about the pre-Google Maps era and the post-Google Maps era, there are a lot of changes that happened that were triggered because of that. That's one element. The other element is that we have open source software that is getting amazing, right? And so what it's caused and now you also have crowdsourced data sets that are being created that are very, very great and improving in accuracy. So when you start mixing all those elements, what you're gonna start seeing is that there's a lot of things that are changing in the GIS space, both for the traditional companies and the new ones that are usually based on leveraging open source technologies. So what you'll end up seeing is a lot of disruption on the web, and hopefully a lot of disruption on these things. Uh, now, if you ask me 5 years ago, I didn't have a device that didn't have a GPS on its sensor with you all the time, and the GPU that you can start leveraging for doing geospatial analysis. And now what you'll start seeing is that a lot of these things are going to start to become more meaningful in our everyday geospatial workflows.
Okay. You, just as a side note, you're in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
you are the kind of leader of the Geo Meetup group in
Yes.
the Bay Area. How many people do you have involved in geo stuff or on your list up in your area right now?
Yeah, it's really crazy. The Geo Meetup has about 1,400 members right now. Actually, if you are in the Bay Area, anybody listening to this is in the Bay Area, next week we have our next meeting on Tuesday. You're welcome to come in. The list is full, so we have about 130 people signed up already. But there's a wait list, and usually what happens is at the end of the wait list, people drop off. The Bay Area is a really interesting place to make meetings like this, because it's basically filled by really interesting companies, right? You have Twitter and Wikipedia and Google and Apple, and the Geo Meetup is a place where a lot of employees from these companies get together, also working on nonprofits and traditional GIS people, and start sharing about the projects that they're working on, and technologies that they're building and how they're solving their solutions. And the Geo Meetup basically is this really interesting center that it's almost self-growing. I really don't have to do much except putting up a website and setting up an RSVP list, and people just gather around it. It was its creation was a very spur of the moment that I was bored. I wanted to get together with some people to just talk about geospatial stuff. And there wasn't any groups. You saw meetups about JavaScript, meetups about Node, all these other technologies, but nothing about geo. Set up a site, and then I was hoping that we could have 5 or 6 people show up. On our first meeting, we already had 120. And so from then on, we've had basically those type of numbers of people showing up. And because we are in the Bay Area, the pool talent for speakers is really good, and makes it really easy to set up a meeting where it's it's easy. I mean, I love when I can hear somebody from Google talking about the latest thing that they're building, or how good it is.
Well, what jumps out at me about that is in context of the conference that we're coming up, and context of some of the people scattered around the state who may not be in that area, it's that there's a vibrant geospatial community. There's a lot going on out there that may not be on, showing up on our inboxes every day, or that we may not, be connected to. And there's plenty of opportunity for people to get together and build these connections across the state and find out what's going on. Whether it's something like the Geo Meetup, or as we're working on the CalGIS conference. So we're really hoping that as we move forward, people come out and participate. Come out to the conference. You're going to be at the conference this year and have a chance for people to talk to you. Maybe the next question might be is, you talked about disruptive things. How are these new technologies that you're getting involved with, how do they fit and match and mate with the more traditional GIS person? So a number of our people who are watching these things they're sitting in a city planning department doing GIS work, and they know that they have their ArcGIS desktop software there in front of them. But maybe you can talk a little bit about the intersection of how that kind of traditional GIS person meets up with what's going on this disruptive front edge.
Yeah, I mean, you're touching actually on a very interesting topic there, right? What happens is that traditional GIS people need to solve problems, right? At the end of the day, you cannot start spending a whole bunch of time tinkering around with new technologies, right? Like you need to have your parcel layers working, you need to have your you know, street network working, and so there's if you look at how the industry has evolved, what you'll notice is that most of the times the innovation that has come out has been isolated from the traditional GIS world. So when somebody wants to use something like this, or some new technology has come up, it becomes really difficult because those new technologies are usually isolated with what is there pre-existing. The approach, at least that we take when we do things, is to integrate, right? Things have to work together. So like somebody that is sitting down in a GIS office in the county or in the city, they have their ArcMap tools that they use. They have our catalog. They have the workflows. The workflows that they've set up to solve problems in a particular way. And so when you want to start using these, then they start usually dabbling with the newer technologies, the ODK, whatever it is, and those things are completely separate. And so what ends up happening is to start innovating in those areas, there's a disconnect, right? It's like, well, I do all my things in ArcMap, but now I cannot leverage the mobile device because I have to export my data out, and I have to set up all these really complicated workflow, and how is it that I start leveraging something like a mobile device? And what we do, I think that's the wrong approach. I think that a lot of startups that have come out is they try to do things isolated, and I personally think that that's a mistake. Is when you go to somebody and you tell them, okay, now we can enable you to leverage a mobile device, and you say, but by the way, you need to do all this other stuff differently, then it's a problem, right? In our case, what we try to do is we do high integration with what they're using. So like if you want to start using an iPad, we build a whole bunch of like ArcGIS toolbars, so you can do it directly from ArcGIS. Keep using the workflow you normally do. You click on the button and you can start connecting directly to your pre-existing workflow. So what I think you'll start seeing within the next year and a couple of years coming in is a lot of these sort of new generation tools that are going to start integrating really well with the traditional tools, because it shouldn't be separate, right? Like you already spent all this money into creating a particular set of workflows and a pipeline that you have for managing your geospatial data, but that shouldn't mean that you should be isolated from using the newer devices. So all the newer companies that you'll start seeing will take integration a lot more seriously.
Okay, well, fantastic. Let me ask you one more question, and then I wanted to let you have a chance to discuss Amigo Cloud and what you're doing with it. Okay, so here's the other question I have for you: that you're out there, you're in this community where there's a lot going on. So if you are going, and this I think applies to everybody who's out here, if you're going to jump in and tell somebody to be careful of sirens in the background.
That's San Francisco. You'll start hearing sirens, seeing naked people walking around. It's just
well, I'm unfortunately I'm in Bakersfield, and we actually Delano right now. So we have oranges. We have oranges. See, that's what we have. So,
yeah.
If you were talking to somebody about coming up in the industry, they were getting started, they wanted this, they were interested in this geo stuff, or somebody maybe who's mid-career and looking to switch into this, what kind of skill sets would you recommend people start developing? What would they need to learn?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just dabble in everything, right? Like dabble in the newest CSRI technologies, dabble in the newest open source technologies, learn Python. Like I cannot think, even when you think about a common denominator on how to script, like, and improve your own workflows, both on the open source world and in the ESRI world, Python is in both sides, right? So learn a scripting language that you feel comfortable with. and try different things. Because there's even if you look at just the open source ecosystem, at all the projects that are related to how do I render a map, right? You'll see 5 different projects, and they all do things very differently. Try them out. Spend a day on each. There's a lot to learn from seeing how people solve the same problem different, and learn a scripting language, learn Python. I think you don't have to be an expert, but it'll help you avoid a whole bunch of extra clicks, and it's not that difficult.
Well, I know that I started doing this stuff 25 years ago, and so now that I look at it, I started in the days, before any of us needed to learn any scripting language, and I'm come from the old hardcore geographer days. So for me,
did you do AML though? Did you do any AML?
Little bit of AML, but I kind of look at
that was the Python of his era, right?
Yeah, I kind of look at it though today as I've become a manager, so I can hire somebody else to do that stuff. So let's see. Back there she is. Okay. So why don't I give you a chance to jump in here and talk a little bit about Amigo Cloud. If any of you who are online would like to ask any questions, please feel free to type them in the box, and I will keep an eye on those and get those questions to Ragi at the end. So have at it. I'm going to switch you over to be presenter, okay? If you want to show your screen.
I don't have any slides.
Okay.
Anything like that set up. But what I can tell you is that this morning we started opening up our beta. So if you're interested in actually, instead of hearing me talk and actually trying the product, go to www.amigocloud.com. On the upper right, you'll see a sign up link. Just fill that out. And we have a few questions that we're doing an early beta and a stage rollout. There's a couple of state agencies and counties that have already been using Amigo Cloud for a while, and now we're getting ready to open it up. What is it that we do? We enable you to use the standard mobile devices that you have on your phone, your Android phone, your iPad, your iOS phone, and integrate really well with your pre-existing workflows. If you want to see what that's like, where you can do an edit here, and it shows up on your Oracle Spatial database directly. You do an edit in your Oracle Spatial, and it gets pushed here instantaneously and on the web, and have a tool that actually fits your workflow. Go sign up, the best thing that I can do is put the trial on people's hands so they can actually see what we believe is possible, what is possible with mobile devices.
Okay. You were mentioning that the beta is starting, so just repeat the website real quick.
Yeah, it's amigocloud.com
Okay.
/sign up. It's on the upper right. We just sent the first open invites of batch of invites I think about 5 hours ago. So today was a big day for us. We actually got a whole bunch of signups. And it's very interesting to see now that we're going to have people, besides our early paid beta testers that we have, now we're going to have more users. So it's a big day for us.
Just a second. I'm going to try to mute my phone here. Oh, well. You'll hear it in the background a little bit. Okay, let me ask
what I can do is I can send you a link to I don't know whether you posted, but I'll send you a link for the sign up.
Okay, and we'll send it out to everybody who is registered for this today. Okay, there's a bunch of questions here. If you're ready to answer a few?
Sure.
Okay, the first question is, in the U.S., do all local governments have a uniform digital mapping program within their respective urban areas?
A uniform mapping program? Not that I know of. Uniform, I mean, it's funny that I mentioned that because even when you talk about, mapping boundaries, right? Like you would think that the county that is next to another county sharing a layer that tells them, what the boundary is, that they would have unified, something as simple as unified schema, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I can jump in here a little bit on this one because I came from local government for a long time and nothing was uniform anywhere. So, okay, let's go to the next one. let's see. Okay, we answered that one. Somebody laughed. Loved that you said AML was the Python of its day. Oh, here's one. Can you describe the technologies that went into Amigo Cloud?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Basically, like I said earlier, there's a lot of open source technologies out there. Like if you're looking for geospatial database, there are open source projects that do that, like PostGIS and Postgres, right? If you're looking for a rendering engine, there's a lot of open source projects that do that. MapNIC, MapServer, GeoServers. If you're looking for geometry engines, there's Geos, or there's Boost has one. So every single piece of what you need to build a cohesive system, whether it's data structure servers, queues, everything exists out there. The beauty of it is that with open source, as long as the license is permissive, you can just grab all these pieces, put them together, and start building on top of that, right? At Amigo Cloud, we grabbed a whole bunch of open source projects, and we've extended it to include a lot of ESRI abstractions on top of it to create a really nice integration among the system. And the other thing is that the beauty of open source is, like, for example, if you're using GDAL or OGR, like the data abstraction library, if you haven't heard of that and you're in the GIS space, I would recommend to you that you go to the gdal.org site and check it out. It's basically an amazing tool. Right? But the point being that for building any type of robust system, a lot of the parts exist out there. And if you're looking for a good geocoder, or if you're looking for some geoprocessing service that it's not available there, but it's available by ESRI, then we leverage those too, right? Like, why wouldn't I go and make a call in the geocoder or the routing engine or something interesting in RJS Business Analyst to serve that, right? It's a web platform. So at Amigo Cloud, we obviously leverage a lot of open source, but we don't shy away of going and leveraging commercial software. And we do that. We leverage the ESRI stack a lot.
Okay. Next question. Does Amigo Cloud, the question is, does Amigo Cloud work well with MySQL databases and or PHP MyAdmin?
PHP MyAdmin. So Amigo Cloud is a platform, right? It's a platform. So we have data collection solutions, but it's also a platform that has APIs. Like anybody that's building a SaaS product should have open APIs, right? So from the side of PHP, yes, you can leverage our services, but the MySQL question is a little bit it's a long question. The answer is that you could interact with it using the infrastructure that MySQL has to extend to leverage the web services, but it's not. I'm gonna probably get a lot of people hating me for this, but since Oracle took over a lot of that from MySQL, there's been a lot of problems with the community.
Yeah. I can blip that out if you'd like in the recording, okay, so it's not on record.
I have friends that work on MySQL, so I don't know what I should say.
Let me ask you, here's another question. It said, when will the full rollout of Amigo Cloud happen?
Yeah. So we're targeting Q2, actually, so very soon. The reason why we're opening up the beta today is because we want to work out a lot of the kinks that we have. It's ready to be used, but like any software, I'm sure that there's a few little things here and there. So within the next 2 months, we're going to be ready to open it up for anybody to come to the site and start using it right away. But if you want to try it out before that, sign up on the page. We'll send you an early invite.
Okay.
And we'll do it for free. Actually, go check it out for free. All I want is good feedback.
Okay. Well, what we'll say to the people here, if you join up and become beta testers, do your job, actually. Don't be one of these people who sign up and then you never hear from them again. So.
Exactly. Use it, give me feedback, and we'll all be happy.
Okay. Next question here for you. And so is for Amigo Cloud, is all data hosted in the cloud, or is there ability to store data locally and sync to the cloud?
Both.
Okay.
So one of the big things that we have is if you have, let's say, a file geodatabase, we have an ArcGIS plugin. Even though file geodatabase is normally a single user system, right? Like it's made for multiple readers but single user. You point the ArcGIS plugin, the Amigo Cloud ArcGIS plugin that we have, point it to it, and all of a sudden you get a multi-version editing environment that is cloud hosted. What we do is we have APIs that allow us to replicate all the data into Amigo Cloud, and then we can sync and replicate the data back to these devices. If these guys are offline, you should still be able to query the data, analyze it, work with it, whether you're online or offline. You should still be able to use it, right? And then once these devices come back from the offline state into the online state, we synchronize everything back. And so the data is replicated in Amigo Cloud, and then whenever it is that you press the button in your local machine, it just syncs everything back.
Okay.
That's one way. Some other customers that we have actually, they don't want that. They want to have their own private cloud option because of security reasons. Like if you're doing police work or firemen, you have your own separate network for that. And so we give them their own private cloud.
Okay.
So for our enterprise customers.
Well, fantastic. Actually, it's very interesting. I saw a little bit of a demo of this a couple months back.
Actually, the early stuff,
Yeah, it was a couple months ago. So, well, why don't we do this? If anybody else has questions, throw them in right now. And if not, before we have too many people start dropping off, which we always, as we start wrapping things up, people start heading off to lunch. So let me say this. I'll thank you. I'll say, if you want to send me any kind of link or any other information, I'll send it out to everybody who's on the webinar list. It's about 700 people. That may overwhelm you a little bit, but
That's great.
one last question here. How did you... actually, there's two, but okay. How did you convince traditional IT departments about their data being replicated in Amigo Cloud, or to replicate this on their own devices? Our IT department is a stickler about holding data in our silos.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how big the pain point is, right? If you need, if I can give you an option where I say, you can start using these guys and these guys in 5 minutes, and all you gotta do is click this button and start trying it out. That's an easy sell, right? And so that's what we do. The moment when you want to deploy it to the entire county, you may start talking about having to have your own, private deployment. But in our case, anybody can go to the site and hit sign up and try it out without having to have your IT guy involved, right? So that's how we're getting people in. You don't need to convince anybody. You can just do it, right? Now, there may be some other political stuff. Don't upload all your sensitive data right away. Just try it out so you can show it to other people. And then when you're ready to do private cloud or you're ready to bring it to them, then do that.
Okay.
I think that's one of the big changes that has happened too. When you think about Gmail and Dropbox and Box.net, all these other services, you don't need to convince anybody. You just go to the website, you sign up, and you're ready to go, right? You have access to the data. There's nothing that is stopping you from using it.
As long as you don't let your company's attorneys know. So, here's one real quick question here, and then I'll get let people go to lunch here. The question is, sounds like Amigo Cloud is utilizing ArcGIS for desktop interaction. What about QGIS?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We have somebody in Italy right now, as we speak, writing a QGIS plugin.
Okay.
It's I personally love open source software as well as CSRI software because I used to work there by using OSGeo meetings. I think QGIS is the other plugin that we're coming up. I don't know when he's going to be done because he's doing it because he wants to.
Okay.
doing open source. But as soon as it is, it'll be public, it'll be open source. Anybody can look at the code, and no magic there, right? It's all open, and you'll be able to do it directly from QGIS.
Okay, well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you at the conference and having you there. If anybody here wants to talk more to Raji, you can. You know what? Send me an email, and then I'll forward that back to you, so I'm not blasting your
You
email.
can always go and click on the contact us.
At Amigo Cloud.
And
Yep.
then we'll,
Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, I'm going to drop your and make myself be able to show my screen again here. Let's see here. And for those of you who missed the very beginning, I am going to spend like 2 minutes telling you about the conference. It's time to register. It's time to register. It's time to register. It's time to register. How's that? If you want information, go to calgis.org. We have a developer meetup on Sunday night before the conference fully gets underway. On Monday, we have workshops from open source workshops from Boundless and Mapbox, and then an ArcGIS Online. They actually are providing the laptops for this. I was just informed during the webinar. Our speakers, Mike Magursky from Code for America and Dylan Lorimer from Google, will be speakers on Tuesday. Then we'll have a panel discussion, a town hall, lightning talks. It's going to be a great day. We'll all be together for the whole day in the room, and the exhibitor area will be open to that room, so any exhibitors who are out there will be able to jump in as well. On Wednesday, we're going to have our gold sponsor session from Esri in the morning, and breakout sessions for most of the day up until about 2:30, after which Eric Gunderson from Mapbox and Jack Dangerman from ESRI will be our closing speakers. Jack is our closing keynote, and he was there for our 10th anniversary conference back in 10 years ago, and trying to remember what year it is today. So 2004, he was there, and so he's going to be there again this year, and we thank him very much for being involved. If you have any more questions, please feel free to get in touch with me, and I will send out links and more information about both Larry's presentation and about Raji's presentation here to everybody on the list afterwards. Thank you so much for being involved. When the next webinar invite comes out here in a couple of weeks, please register for that. That's going to be our last full webinar before the conference, because like I said, we're only about 50 days out, and I don't know that we can squeeze another one in right before the conference. But I thank you so much for participating in all of these. One question I am going to ask everybody, I'm going to send out a question. If this email, the email that you sent me to register for this, can be shared with anybody else, and I'll ask you that later on. Thank you so much for being involved today. Thank you.